Are you listening now?
Protandem. Available only from Life Vantage. Activated by science. Inspired by life.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Hi everybody, it's Joe Hicks, and this is To Your Success. My guest today, Ben Zallaha,
Nailed it.
with Life Vantage. And Ben is an entrepreneur. He is a person who has a business that has been doing extremely well. He actually has several businesses, and he is one of those rare people who his mind just works nonstop. He looks at ideas, thoughts, and processes and implements them, and he's always looking to make it better. He is high energy. Love this guy. He is awesome. Ben, welcome.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate having me.
No problem. Well, tell us a little bit about you and who you are.
Well, first and foremost, child of God, and understanding that that's truly the center of where I am and what I'm about. Here to serve in whatever capacity, and I really am appreciating that the gifts that He's put on me throughout my entire life is to, just like what you were talking about, is to look at something and think, how do we make this bigger, better, faster, and that it can be more efficient. So married for 20 years, no kids. I don't know if that's bad or good, depends on who I ask and what day it is. But just excited to be out and doing stuff like this. And again, I want to say thank you for taking your time to put a project like this together. I think it's it's a great idea to begin with. And I think there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, entrepreneurship is a challenge that a lot of the time, I mean, most people, when they get a job, they go to school, they get taught how to do this. A lot of times, unless you're jumping into something like a franchise that's already got the system in place and that's what you're paying for to begin with, you're learning by fire. And so to have stuff like this that people can access and dive into is a tremendous resource. So I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate you putting it together.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about Life Vantage.
Life Vantage is a network marketing direct sales company. I can already hear the booze. Hold on, bear with me. It's bringing, it's an interesting story behind it. It used to not be network marketing. It used to be on store shelves. It has a technology that was ahead of its time that people weren't able to really fully understand. It needed, like we were talking a little bit before off camera, it needed a story to be told. And it was an education to it. And really, that's what network marketing is it's an education and understanding business. The challenge is a lot of times people go, well, that has a real bad connotation to it, or people look at that negatively. That's true, because a lot of times people are getting involved with it that aren't business people per se. They understand. I mean, they have this desire, to hunger to do something, to own something that they're doing.
Isn't it like most people get in it to get rich quick? That's the mentality that I've always seen with people that jump into MLMs.
Well, and you know what? It's kind of like the chicken and the egg in the car business. As far as, do people hate going to the car business because of how they act, or does the car business react to how people are? Now, I was in the car business for 10 years. I can use that analogy, but as far as it has that negative connotation to it. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's part of the education process, is that we're so conditioned that we're going to go get a job, we're going to work 40, 50 years, which is not even the case anymore. It's plus, because there's it's not the gold watch after 40 years, thanks, you're set for the rest of your life economy anymore. And I'm sorry, I'm going down another road. The
That's
question
all right.
was...
That's all right.
The get rich quick scheme. It's a mind shift and an understanding, and I think there's a big shift in our economy in general that people are understanding that's a system, a vehicle, if you will, that just doesn't work anymore. And that's why entrepreneurs are looking at different avenues. When you really understand, and I mean truly understand from a business perspective how network marketing works, it's not any different in that somebody who goes and writes a book or a movie or sings a song that gets played a million times and they get royalties on that for the rest of their life every time that's played. That's that concept into a business model. So if you can go and do something like that, I'm just not a tremendous author, or my singing voice is horrible, so I'm not going to be making residual royalty money off of that. He's laughing because he knows.
No.
But it just gives the average person that opportunity to do that. So if you can walk into something in 4, 5, or 10 years, be able to set up enough money that it's like having $5, $10, $15 million in the bank that you can pull from for the rest of your life, then yeah, it's getting rich quicker than getting broke quicker.
No, that's true. So Ben, why are you an entrepreneur? What drove you to be an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. It goes back to when I was a kid, and we talked about this before, but as far as I remember having a pocket full of change and thinking, I was paying for something. This will tell you how old I am, because you still needed pennies. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could just put something into your pocket and just pennies would come out? So then I started thinking, how do I make something magnetic to copper? And then I started talking to people, and they're like, copper's not magnetic. It doesn't have that property. You can't do that. And then somebody said, you can't do that? I was like, that was a challenge. Oh, really? So I think that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, is that you come up with an idea or something gets planted on you and you're like, I'm going to go do that. And then either, depending on where your mindset is, somebody's going to challenge you and say, you can't do that. And you're like, oh yeah, well, watch me. Or most people, they're like, oh yeah, you're right, I can't. And that's why I think a lot of businesses or entrepreneurs fail before they even get started, is that they let what their friends and family are telling them squash it before they get started. So to answer your question, it's kind of something that's always been there as far as entrepreneurship and just how do we make this better.
It's in your DNA.
Yes.
Perfect.
That was a way easier way to put it.
What are your goals? What in personal goals, or they could be both personal and business. A lot of people interchange those, but what are your goals?
Well, I'm going to give you a current, because they're ever changing. As far as I appreciate this the longer that I go through life and my walk is right now is to be able to set up the income where, I mean, I can go do life without having to worry about producing money.
Right.
That's just then, because like my wife who works at the VA as a nurse sees some pretty brutal things go on with people there in regards to when a spouse dies. Sometimes this other spouse has no idea how to function. I mean, they don't know how to pay a bill. They don't know how to do anything.
That is true.
And so we want to start a nonprofit, or it's going to be a part of the blank of a bigger ministry, to be able to say, hey, come, let us get you trained up at no cost to them and help them reintegrate as being a functioning member of society, for the lack of a better term. So there's a lot of other stuff. I'm working with a very good friend of mine and business partner who is just actually starting full-time in his ministry, is to help people grow into whatever their calling or their gifting is. Help them understand what their identity is and be able to lift them up and be the best that they can be in that chosen field, whether it's politics or entertainment or business, but just help them grow through that process. You did a great video called The Fear of Failure. And so many people get caught up in so many different fears, which I can totally attest to walking through. And but that's not who we were called to be. That's not who we are. So there's a lot of, in most cases, and again, I'll use myself as a reference, I was a fear of failure. I was afraid of success. I was afraid of fear. I mean, I had the whole package going on.
The whole gamut, huh?
And it was everything that had happened in my life that I was just had this big backpack, and I was saying, that's who is deciding who I am.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. So we all have people that we look up to, people that we aspire to be like them. Is there an entrepreneur out there that you would say, boy, if I if I could just do half of what this person's done, I would love to do that.
There's a gentleman named Eric Worre that is, if anybody is watching this, knows anything about network marketing, was one of the top guys in multiple companies, started his own company, and then he realized, and this is a kind of a connector to a previous question before, that there was a big disconnect with a lot of how professionals viewed this industry. And he thought, you know what? I need to help people understand that this is legitimately a profession. This isn't something that your weird aunt or uncle does that are selling soap out of the garage to become millionaires. Mm-hmm. This is a legitimate business industry. It did $183 billion last year, worldwide. I mean, it did better. I mean, the growth rate is better than what's going on with our gross domestic product. I mean, retail sales, it's outpacing all of these things. So it's just an education process, and he's helping people to be able to understand that it is a profession and that you have to treat it like a professional. I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about before. A lot of people think, oh, this is a way for me to go get rich quick. And then they go and they tell stories to their friends and family who either squash their dream, tell them they're crazy, which is what happened to me 20 years ago in my first adventure in this. But he's helping structure and walk people through that process. So not only is he helping us in the industry grow, he's doing stuff out into the traditional business world to understand that, you know what, this is just another vehicle. Because at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do as an entrepreneur or go get a job or in the service field, these are just vehicles to get to a destination. And I think that's where there's a big disconnect for a lot of people, is that they end up getting involved in something that they have no joy or passion in doing, and then they hate their life. So I want to be able to...
Isn't that true, though?
I want to be able to help people be passionate about whatever it is they do and become as successful as they want to become.
Perfect. Here is... when I do interviews or I do anything and I talk to people that are in this business in any type of capacity as an entrepreneur, this question means so much to me, and I know a lot of you people watching this want to know this stuff too. And that is, what advice would you give an entrepreneur, young, old, doesn't really matter, an entrepreneur who's watching this, what advice would you give to them?
Understand that failure is the critical component to success. There's a tremendous teacher named Jim Rohn, an amazing business mind of the last 50 years. And he has a great way of putting it about disciplining your disappointment. Mm-hmm. Because as you walk through the process of, and you can put this in any area of life, but specific to being a business owner or entrepreneur, is to understand going into it that you are going to fail probably more than you're going to succeed. And that if you can walk into it knowing that, and whatever industry you might be in, that a lot of times it's a numbers game, and that out of 10 people, 1 or 2 people might do it, or 1 or 2 people might buy, or whatever. If you can go in and understanding that, I mean, he's a great analogy of baseball, that the greatest baseball players batted 300, right?
Strike out 7 and hit 3.
Once people are able to wrap their mind around and I heard it put really well one time or recently, is that understanding that failure is just learning. That's all that is. Mm-hmm. And so I heard this, it was some meme on Facebook or something that said, either I learn or I succeed. It's not I fail or I succeed, it's either I learn or I succeed. And just to understand that failure is a part of that education process. If you have the opportunity to find somebody in the field that you're pursuing that's willing to mentor you and walk you through that, listen to them. I mean, this was something that really came to me when I was driving down here. At the end of the day, whatever it is that excites you, that you're passionate about, you want to follow, go find somebody that has that success and go do what they did. Mm-hmm. Don't try to reinvent a wheel. Don't try to invent a new process. That's why people buy franchises. That's why people go to school to be doctors. I want to be a doctor. Okay, I got to go spend 16 years of my life in education to go do this. But anyways, to go back to answer your question, just understand that failure is part of the process, and right out of the box.
If I may add to that, thank you. That's great advice. failure works on our pride. And when we fail, we take it personally. We take it where our pride is damaged and we're embarrassed. One of the things to do is to understand, as Ben was just saying, is that learn from your failures and don't repeat them. That's the biggest thing. Use failure as the next step to success. Once you do that, your whole life changes. Ben, thank you so much.
Joe, my pleasure, brother.
I'm Joe Hicks, Ben Zallaha,
Nailed it again.
Life Vantage. And to your success, thank you for all of you who have been viewing these interviews and content. We're going to keep moving strong. I'm going to try to get, I'm putting myself out here. I'm going to try to get stuff out every day. Woo. And that is a challenge. But I can do it. And with your help and subscriptions, if you guys can subscribe to this channel to build this show up, it's just going to help everybody. So again, to your success, I'm Joe Hicks. This has been Zallaha, and we'll see you next time.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.